our next personal singlet, or not singlet, certificates goes to just some of the kids that I thought about this year. So when you come up here, just kind of listen to what I'm saying before I call your name, okay? There's two kids that stuck out to me this year that every time their teammate were out on the mat, they were always in my corner pocket or in the corner pocket of one of the other coaches, like cheering them on like crazy. They didn't care who they were, but they were shouting to the top of their lungs every time, to the point where I was like, get off my dang mat. So first one is Jude Hess. Other one, I don't think he's here, but it was Lucas Evans. It was his first year with us, and he was just like Jude. Like, one was on the left, one was on the right, and I constantly had to tell them to get off. Lucas didn't know any of you guys' names, but he was out there rocking like non-stop. Let's go, and he loved it. So he's not here, but good job, Lucas. All right, the next one I have is someone that kind of took a lot of people for surprise. Like when they stepped out there on the mat, like a lot of people opened their eyes and they're like, "Who the heck is this kid? Like, where did he come from?" I kind of put it as the bracket buster, right? Because once he showed up in that bracket, he started as a beginner and he was smashing all those kids. Once he transferred out of that bracket, a lot of those advanced kids were looking at him and looking at the coaches like, where did this kid come from? Because he was a dark horse and no one had seen him wrestle before. He was in the beginner's bracket. So I'm not going to talk much about him. Hudson Davis, come on up here. All right, I have a couple for this one. It was the most improved from last year. So if you're first year with us, you don't qualify for this. But most improved for last year. Some of the qualifications that I had for most of these is you placed at state, and a lot of the coaches would talk about you or count on you for like team points and placement. So the first one, most improved, I'm going to go with Isaac. Isaac, come on up here. Right now. One of the other most improved was one which I'm surprised is not here. I'm going to yell at his mama. Last year he struggled. Man, when we went to Deep South, I remember his mama and dad looking at us like, "Coach, maybe my kid should be playing basketball or something," because he got his head whooped, and but he smiles and he comes back in here and he trains and he works and he just toes the line every time the same way, and that's Beckton Hall. About it. So there was a lot of candidates for hardest worker, right? Some of us are brand new. We're battling kids that are state champions in the room. We're going out there in the tournaments. We're wrestling the #1 kids or #2 or #3, and we're getting our tail whooped. This is the only one I didn't actually say that you had to be a state placer, because in my eyes, there's a lot of you guys that work your tail off here. A couple, for example, Zade's one of the hardest workers in our club. Like, I don't know if you ever pay attention. He's not only out there working hard, but in the tournaments, he's working hard. He was a close second for this one, but the only thing that I took away from this, if you take away all that winning, if you take away all those hands getting raised or being on the podium, like, are you still going to step on that line and push it as hard as you can just so you can be a good training partner and just so you can get better? Like that, to me, that means a lot. So, Rhett Hall, come on up here. People out there that I just absolutely loved watching before steroids were a thing. They were really big in WCW, the Steiner brothers, but a lot of people don't know is they had a huge career in high school wrestling and in college wrestling. Like they were one was 180 and one was 190. They were back to back. They wrestled like they were some of the most dangerous people to be out there. That transitioned into Michigan State and then into WCW. To me, the Steiner brothers were like one of the best tag teams, and that award is going to go to two of the dominant brothers here. But how many of y'all, raise your hand real quick, how many of y'all got brothers or sisters that are on the same team? Look at that. Like, that's huge. Like, you guys have something to look forward to, right? You have something to push each other and be pretty dominant. But this year there was no doubt that these two were going to take top two every tournament. And Luke and John, you were a close second. But Hollis and Lewis pulled it out because they both walked away with the championship. So come on up here, Steph. Let's go over one that it's called the Lion Award, and this kid, man, I tell you what, he was a special one to have out there in the match. It didn't matter who we told him to go toe the line with, he would turn and look at you, all crazy looking, and then face his opponent and get in his stance. There is no doubt that this kid would have gone toe to toe with, who was that, Miles Darling, if we would have told him, because we told him to get set, and he got down in his stance, he didn't say anything, he didn't question anything. So the Lion Award goes to Mateo. Come on, Mateo. That was awesome. He's like, great fella. Okay, gotcha. All right, the next two are the Rookie of the Year Award. First season and had a phenomenal year. The one, obviously, we already talked about. Actually, both of these two were nothing but hard working in the club. Like they didn't care what your record was. They didn't care how hard of a worker you were. They were going to come in here and battle as hard as everybody else in the club and on that mat. So first one, Hudson Davis, come on out here. All right, the next one, it's not going to come to a surprise for most of us. Like there was only one kid that could actually beat this kid. So to come number two at every tournament and still show up in here grinding away and not running away from anybody and going to the tournaments and smashing heads for a first-year wrestler is pretty crazy. Come on out here, Sanders. All right. So I remember having a conversation with Joe at the state, and he's like, "We got this wrapped up." And I don't know if you remember. I was like, "No." He's like, "There's a whole lot of things got to happen before that, and I'm not one to check the team scores. I'm not one to."
There he is.
Yeah, I see. He must have been late, but I'm not one to. I'm not one to get excited before it happens because I know a lot of things happen that turn against us, or we have people work against us, that things don't always go in our favor. But there was one match that I knew at that point in time, we were going to walk away as team state champions. And that was Aaron Giles' match. Come on out here. leads us into Aaron Giles was the game changer match. Like, there was no doubt, like, our momentum shifted at that point in time. Like, I knew at that match, matter of fact, I knew that first takedown. Like, right off the whistle, he blasts in on a double and he gets a takedown. I knew right then something special was about to happen, but I'll get to that in a second. Ben Hall, come up here. I announced it a second ago, but you were late. I was talking about like a lot of these kids come in here and get their head clubbed in, and it takes a special kind of person to come back the next year, especially after Deep South. I don't know if you remember last year Deep South, right? Like it was tough. Like I said, Mom and Dad both looked at us and were like, maybe we should start up basketball because it was a tough tournament, right? But we learned from that, and we fixed a couple little things to where you were one of the most improved here in the this season this year. So I'm proud of you, boy. All right, so I get back to Giles' match. Like to have Aaron Giles go out there and beat the kid that beat him at regionals, and have a clear number 2 and number 1 going head to head. It was nice to have that victory lead into what I'm going to say was the match of the year. The match of the year, like, if you were in there, you witnessed that match, you witnessed, like, all the craziness, there's no doubt in your mind that was match of the year. This kid was 2 years in a row undefeated. He had beaten Luke all year long. I remember looking at him after he come off the regional match, and it was what, 4-0, Luke? 4-0? Yeah. And I looked at him, I said, is he beating him? And he said, absolutely. And all year long, I said, it takes a lot of heart sometimes. And that match, for sure, took nothing but heart at the end. So come on up here. Can't nominate myself. But there was someone who is obviously a clear performer. Like every one of you guys were asking for him because he is the loudest person out there. Yes, sir. He fights for every one of you guys. Like you're all state champions. But I'm gonna tell a little story before we get into that. You got it, Coach.
Give him lower strength, give him lower.
Big weight. So, 4 years? 4 years ago, I started coaching. I remember sitting at the Pike Road tournament, and I hear this monster of a man 3-4 mats away, like shouting at the top of his lungs. And I remember looking over to one of the guys that was on our team was like, well, don't pay no attention to him. He's just loud. He doesn't mean anything. And I was thinking in my head, it's like, that's a guy that I want. Like, I'm not asking who that guy was because it was an insult. I was asking because that's someone I want on my team. Because I could see him fighting for his kid and just running around the mat like crazy. Like, severely crazy because he was sweating like crazy. But I remember him walking up to a couple of the kids and he would say something to them. He'd be like, hey, I'd be like, man, stop recruiting my kids. And he'd be like, I ain't recruiting no one. And I was like, well, okay. I remember it was towards the end of the season. I was like, hey, I want you to come work with us during the off season. At that time, I didn't know who his 2 boys were. I just knew who that person was. His boys were an added bonus. But for him to walk away from a program and do what he did and just try us out that year, it's been history. He says it all the time. He's like, before we were winning, like referees, how do I say this? Organizations, administrators, like other coaches didn't care who he was, right? They just thought he was just this big hillbilly in the back that didn't know what he was doing. But now we put it together. Now we're winning, and he's louder. God bless him. He's more entertaining, and he cares about his kids, and it overshadows what these other organizations are doing for money and just trying to hold the other clubs down and keep them down, really. But Coach Cody, come on out here. Yeah, you gotta say something.
Speech. I'm glad all y'all wrestled this year. It was a great time getting to know the new kids, seeing all the old faces back in here. I enjoy it. I just love going out there and hollering at you guys. I really do. The wife don't appreciate it all. I do. I'm glad y'all let me coach you, homies.